Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. Welcome to Live and on Display with Whcc. I am Robert, and of course beside me is Christina, and we are going to introduce some new products today. So stick around, guys. This is going to be a big one. Now, we're going to be with you live about 20-25 minutes, so you know the deal. If you have any questions, don't be shy. Get those fingers going. We'll answer as many as we can as time permits. So definitely do that as we go along. Now, while you're down there, of course, smash buttons, ding bells, like, subscribe. You know the whole deal. Okay. Now, today's guests, among my favorite. Always crowd pleasers. happy to have them back. And they've got a couple of new friends that they're bringing with. And so let's just jump right into it and bring on our guests. Our guests for today, of course, fine art papers. You all know how much I love these. And if you saw one of my burning questions a while back, I teased the idea of a couple of new papers coming.
Yes, we did.
And they are here. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But we're also going to talk about just what is great about the fine art papers. Why are they always so popular? And why are they particularly trending right now, even over some of the other more traditional printing styles? Okay, and I think, Christina, I would say it's the reason for that is encapsulated basically by artisanship.
I agree with that.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, these are really special papers, and the way they are prepared, they're really unique.
Yes.
Right? And we carry all these papers because they all have their own characteristics, right? So you have more choice for that, but they all have the same approach, the same creation, and the same beauty and really uniqueness about them. And so let's just jump right into it. I mean, it's really about the top printing standards, right?
Yep.
As well as the papers. So these are all printed with a giclée process, right? That's G-I-C-L-E-E with an accent on the first E. And what that is, it's essentially tiny little water-based pigment dots in the finest of dots that are laid down on these specially prepared surfaces on these papers. And all of our papers are 100% plant-based, by the way. So they're all going to be 100% cotton or 100% cellulose. And we're going to break those down, and we're going to look at those as we go along. So they're prepared with essentially that giclée process is inkjet, and that is going to afford us 9 inks, right?
Which
I think
is
I'm right about
higher
that.
than like a photo print, right, Robert?
Exactly. So it's going to have really more definition, more color depth, more dynamic range, right?
Yep.
It's going to give you a lot more play with contrast while keeping kind of your solid midtones, right? You don't sacrifice anything for those contrasts. And even just looking at these, all the same file on these prints, I mean, they're gorgeous. Obviously a little bit farther away. We'll get up closer with them as we go along. And so that's what we're going to do with you today. Now, we're going to look a little more closely at them as we go through. But another thing about them, harder to see here, I'm going to go through the papers one by hand, is their texture, right? So they all have a unique texture.
Different texture, yep.
Every single one of these is different. And
Which does make them a little more delicate than photo paper.
right, exactly. So these are, because they're produced right onto the surface, right there, you know, and some more than others. But again, the plant-based thing is important, but also they're acid-free, they're pH neutral, archival, right? So this whole process with these archival inks, it rates at 100 plus years, right? So these are really solid as well as being beautiful. And whether they are matte or have more of a finish to them, because some of these do, the way they're produced, they do not, there's nothing between you and the image, right? There's not so much of something that is going to distract you. Okay, so these are all the 5 papers, including our new ones. I just didn't tell you, but they're here. So let's break them down one by one, shall we? Okay, let's start with the new guys, right? The first one is going to be this paper here. This is the Aquarelle. It is a rag 100% paper by Canson Arches, or Canson, and Aquarelle, if you are adhering to the French, as you should. This is a This is a beautiful watercolor paper, right? It's the second watercolor paper in our stable here, but it's also very unique and different from the torchon, which we'll compare with later. Again, 100% cotton. It has kind of a felt-like finish,
Texture
wouldn't
to
you
it,
say?
yeah.
The texture, and the texture is a little more condensed as well. A little more condensed than our torchon watercolor paper. And this is really created through an old world process. And I'm not even kidding you. So listen to this. The paper making masters at Arches began creating world-class fine art papers in 1492. What?
What, Robert?
1492, when Columbus was putt-putting across the pond in the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, these guys were making beautiful fine art papers, for real. A lot of history here, obviously a lot of experience. So we're really happy to add this to our stable as well. Really pure whites, as you can see. Almost cool.
Yep.
I mean,
On
on
the
that side,
cooler side.
really, really pure whites, which is nice in a fine art paper. And of course, that affords us a ton of clarity with those 9 inks. Very, very tight, clear colors and beautiful contrast and highlights, again, without sacrificing the midtones.
Yep.
Right, so this is a gorgeous new paper, and we're happy to have it. Now, new paper number 2, this is from our friends at Hahnemühle. This is the Hahnemühle Photo Rag metallic paper. This I'm super excited about, because this paper, again, this is a third paper in our stable, the baryta, the torchon, and now this metallic. It's again 100% cotton. It does have a nice, really sort of sophisticated texture to it, and this metallic sheen. Most of you know that Kodak stopped making the metallic photo paper.
Yes.
And this is really, I'm going to say it's really an elevated, upscale version of that,
Yep.
right? And so this is a fine art version of that, and maybe a good replacement for you. It's going to just use this as an opportunity to just niche up,
Yep.
right? To have this as well. What do you think about this paper?
Yep, I was just gonna say, I think it's cool. It has the little bit of sheen on it, and like if you can maybe turn it to the side, maybe counter can get, but it does still have the metallic-y kind of pop to it, where it kind of brings out some fun tones. Yeah, you can get it pretty good there.
Really great. So yeah, bold
yeah.
colors are great on
Yep.
this, obviously.
Yep, we're telling lots of our clients that used to really love the metallic paper, or even just wants, like you said, a different kind of look to their fine art papers, or depending what the image is, that this is a really cool paper to try out. So.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. And if you were a metallic fan, definitely get on this wagon, get samples of this,
Yeah.
and check this one out. Okay, so those are our new, right? Our the Aquarelle by Canson.
I can't say it that way, Robert.
Try it, Aquarelle. And then, of course, the new Hahnemühle paper, the metallic photo rag. Super excited about that. Let's just review again the rest of our papers,
Yep.
right? And again, if we have any questions, throw them in there. We want to hear from you. We know your feet are up. It's okay. You can still type. And let's go through the rest of these, and we'll make a couple of comparisons. So when we look at our smoothest paper, right, that is the smooth matte,
Yep.
exactly what it sounds like, right? Tabletop smooth. This you can't go wrong with.
Right, it is our most popular paper.
And
Fine
that's-
art paper.
Right, most popular fine art paper because it is it's priced right, and the smooth matte, you don't worry about faces and textures and anything like that.
Right,
Right.
yep.
So it's great for portraits. Obviously, it's also great for landscape. It's really great for anything. This one is a no-brainer. Now we're going to look into our next, our Hahnemühle papers, and then make a couple of comparisons, because there are comparisons to be made. I'm in love with the Hahnemühle, the Fine Art Torchon. I love this paper. This is a cellulose paper, by the way. So this is the lone cellulose paper, 100% cellulose. They all are, again, plant-based. They all have the same archival ability, 100 years plus. So we call it lifetime archival ability, right?
And Robert, this one probably has the most texture visible
Right.
texture, you think?
Yes, I do, absolutely. And it's a little hard to pick up, but you can kind of hear me running over that. So this one, the Photo Rag Aquarelle from Canson, created in that old world style, right? So this paper mill in France is the only paper mill in France that still produces this paper by a traditional, Arches does, a traditional cylinder mold process, which is really a beautiful thing. And the way it lays out in this case, again, as I mentioned, a little bit more condensed. It's going to be tricky for Connor to get up on this and see the differences, but I would say that the torsion has a much sort of wider spread out texture.
Texture, yep.
Right?
Yep, and that's a good description, Robert.
And then this, again, is going to have just more of a condensed pattern. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about choice.
Agreed. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So whatever it is that floats your boat, you should definitely do samples of both and see what you like most. But they're both beautiful papers. We talked about the aquarelle being really poppy bright white. So if I look at these here, you may not be able to see it on camera, but the aquarelle is a little bit cooler, as
yep.
we mentioned, right? And so consequently, this torsion is a tiny bit warmer. That's going to help. Oh yeah, you can see that. That's going to help in your choicing. And then the other thing is just going to be a pattern of the texture.
Yep.
Right? Okay, so a good comparison there. Let's take a look at now the two Hahnemühle papers, the Photoreg Baryta, and then, of course, the metallic. Some similarities here worth noting. Both 100% cotton papers. They both do have a process, and the finish of them gives it a little bit of a sheen, right? So this is kind of where that sophistication comes into play. I really love both of these papers. The Baryta, obviously, just stunning for black and white.
Agreed. Yep.
Right? They all go by the same 9 ink process, so they do all have that capability for really deep darks and just beautiful throughout. So you see there is quite a similarity between the metallic and the Baryta. The metallic texture is slightly different than the Baryta. The Baryta has more planing or flat areas, and the metallic is very subtle, but it's all the way throughout. Plus then on top of that is this metallic sheen, which I think once you hold this in your hand, it's so hard to do it on camera, but once you hold this paper in your hand, if you are a fan of metallic, you are going to love this. So they have their similarities, and they both have their purposes. So it's going to, again, be choice dependent, image dependent,
yep.
and brand dependent.
Yeah, and over the fall, Robert, I saw a lot of clients use the Baryta almost as like a photo paper option, because when you print regular photos on there too, it almost gave it like a luster feel, but kind of almost like a higher end option too. So it's kind of neat to see the use cases on those too. And you mentioned too, a lot of times when we show Baryta for trade shows or events and stuff like that, we're always kind of showing a black and white image, just because out of all the papers, it holds the black and white the best. It doesn't like flake off or anything like that. That's because of the sheen on there. So I think that one, we always suggest that. But it looks great with color and stuff too. So.
Right, and I think you hit it on the head when you said high end. Mm-hmm. That's really what the fine art papers do. They are the highest end. And yeah, as Christina mentioned, that first at the top of our program here, that because of the way these are made, they can be a little bit more delicate, but the ones with the coated surfaces a little bit are going to have a little more, they're going to be a little more hardy, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
So that, not that I would be careless when I handle this, but this is a little bit tougher.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
In how I display this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So if we do not have any questions, let's go on to that's what's trending, with these papers and why they are the archival pigment inks, and then let's talk about finishing, right?
Yep.
What's trending in finishing right now? And the magic hand is going to pass up a couple of things here. And what we have here is a 16 by 16. This is a torsion, and it is in a double black matte in the rustic ash. Now, the first thing that I want you to notice is what's in front of this? Nothing.
Yep.
Right? So that is the biggest trend. The two trends now are really to frame these.
Agreed.
Because they are art pieces. Mm-hmm. And that's how I think you should present them.
Yes.
Right? The Baryta may be the exception because you can add, again, just regular photo prints and things like that. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, think of them as art pieces. No acrylic is the trend right now because there is nothing then between your eyes and these beautiful papers. And I am a huge fan of that.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned in the beginning, Robert, about like why did fine art trend in overall over photo paper, and you kind of mentioned like the texture and stuff, but just the depth of the art, it just feels more like art, right?
Yeah.
Not that any of our other products don't, but it kind of just gives that more added feel that the artists like, and kind of just feels like a finished, beautiful high-end product.
Agreed. And when you look at these and the depth, and really it's almost like 3D, what these do is, for me, they create an emotional response, right?
Yeah.
That's what you want your clients to have, an emotional response to the art. And when you look at this on the wall, you're like, what is that on? How is that created?
Yeah.
You know, that's how unique and beautiful these are. So that's one right there, a super good option. Oh, by the way, you know what? Let's turn this around and look real quick at the back, because I love these things, right? So these corner brackets here are sometimes confusing. See if Connor can get up close on these. And if you listen carefully, that's not what you think it is. That's my fingernail on these ridges. So what these ridges do is help you hang these little things here confuse people. They don't do anything. It's this here. These allow you to not be perfect with your anchor screws, right?
Yep.
You can be off almost as much as an inch, and you're like, ah, this is brutal. No, you just go bink, 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 and make it level, right? And if you make the sound when you do it, you go bink, 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 and it's gorgeous. So I actually love these.
And Rob, we're just showing today, like, again, some of our trending options. Obviously with fine art, you can do tons of things with, but we're just kind of showing some of the most popular frame options of the way we think you should
exactly.
with your finished fine art.
You know, that's a really good point, because the fine art papers, like photo papers, are going to come out with a natural kind of curve to them, right? And so probably the most popular way to display them is going to be mounted.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
So what we showed you right at the top of the show, mounted prints, is probably going to be the way, you know, if you have that option to do that with your clients, or of course in a finished product like this.
Yep.
Right. So next in line, we have another 16 by 20. This is the metallic photo rag. Man, I just love this paper. It is so gorgeous. And it's going to be, again, hard for Connor to pick this up, but there. Yeah, you see how it almost has a goldish, silverish undertone, like the metallic photo paper did. Really love this. This is very impactful paper. And this, again, has a single white mat on it here to give us our print inside that. This is the Black Gallery Grand. So the Gallery Grand frame is the big daddy, right? So this is beefy as far as the gallery frames go. Sits off the wall further and thicker across the face.
And you mentioned that this is our single white mat, but it is our newer 1/8 inch, but it has like a deep, deep cut, but it just kind of gives it that extra kind of like art gallery feel to it. You can kind of see how thick it is.
Very true. I don't know if we can even get this, but you can kind of pick up the bevel here of just how deep that is, right? 16th versus an 1/8, and yeah, this is meaty. I think for the larger pieces, I would definitely do this.
Yep.
Yeah. On the back, we just have the wire hanger, right? So that's an easier thing to get there. Thank you very much. Now I think we have one more sample here. Let's go back to the hand. The magic hand. And this here finally, because you can float frame just about anything, right? You could float frame a metal print.
Yep.
You could float frame a photo print, float frame fine art.
Yeah.
This is really, I think, an interesting presentation, right? The way you've got about a 1/4 inch gap around it, so it looks like within that frame, it's floating. And that's pretty cool.
And you can do any of the fine art papers this way.
Yeah. There you get how you can see how that kind of floats within that frame, which is kind of cool. So this is going to be just the smooth mat, right? Great for skin because there is no texture. This is a 12 by 18, and this is on the natural wood float frame. Love these two. And this, of course, just has the wire hanger in the back. All of them are professionally finished, right? Paper backing, the whole idea. These are permanent keepsakes.
Correct.
Right? As opposed to, hey, I think I want to change out that photo. Well, you better bring it to a framer, I would say, in that case. So again, These are just some use cases, as
Yeah,
you
our
know,
most popular
you mentioned.
ones right now, like you said, you would probably frame your fine art print. Obviously, you can do other things with standout bamboo panels, all our other substrates, but these are just our current most popular kind of trending ways to display your fine art piece.
Yeah, that's really a great point. And if it gets out of the price point of your client, something like the standout, again, you can mount almost anything on a standout.
Which is behind
right?
us.
That's what we
yep.
have here. These are all
Yep.
standouts here, white edge standouts, 3/4 inch. And really impactful. These are obviously super, super clean, right? Very square, tight edges. But you know, if you need a little more affordability for your client, go in that direction. You know, okay, so there is one more thing that I want to talk about real quick before we hit the road, and that is a lot of people don't know this. With any of these fine art prints, these fine art papers, we can produce them, and these are standard size prints from 3.5 by 5 all the way up to 40 by 60, right? That is a standard size in our ordering software. How big a frame can they do? Do you know offhand?
I mean, we've done pretty big. I mean, I know obviously we've done 40/60s a bunch.
Yeah.
But we've done some odd sizes.
So you
pretty
think
big.
about, you can do a 40 by 60 frame, and that is standard, right? If you go above that maximum, that becomes a different thing, right? Because of how it has to be packaged and shipped. But Christina kind of said that with the odd sizes, that any of these papers, you can custom size.
Yep.
Right? And if any of you have done a custom size photo print, the way it has to be, you know, the way it has to be made so that, or the file itself has to be made so that it fits properly into the ordering software, the process is exactly the same.
Correct. Yep.
Just recanvassing it up to the next available size up. Make whatever here's how you do it. You ready? You're going to crop your file to the size you want it, that custom size, at 300 pixels per inch. In Photoshop, just go to Image, Canvas Size, anchor it to a corner, one of the anchor boxes, you'll see that, and then just put in the next standard size up in the height and width. It will automatically make it that size. Why do we have to do that? Because when we order in the Rose ordering software, or even online, it wants to make it fit.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yep.
And so if you just put it into the larger size and say, I want this, no, it's going to pull it out. So this way it'll fit in there. You'll see this extra space here. In the order notes, you just say, hey, trim this thing to 12 by 15 or whatever
And
your
all
size
our
is.
frame substrate stuff can be custom too. So you can order the custom size, custom standouts, stuff like that. We can all cut down.
Yeah, big point there. So just let us know. It's all possible. Everything is possible here. Seriously, just let us know, what do you need? We'll just get the details from you, and yes, we can custom make the frame, we can custom make the standout, whatever it is. We can do that for you wall art wise, so don't be shy about that. All right, folks, we are running down on our 25 minutes. We've got the red light flashing up there in the booth. The producer's still got his feet up on the table, so that's good. Not making anybody too crazy. We want to thank you again for joining us. Christina, thank you for joining me
thanks for
today
having me, Robert.
for another WHCC live and on display. Don't forget to smash, ding the bell, do the whole thing so that you know when the new content is coming out, because you guys know now about these two new fine art papers. This is going to be reposted, so you can go through details there as well. Don't worry about that. And if you have any other questions, feel free to still drop them in there or contact us here. Happy to answer all your questions. We hope you guys have an awesome day on behalf of everybody here in the White House Custom Color team. It's been great to spend some time with you, and we'll see you next time.